Here to share his almost unbelievable stories, pilot Andy Danziger. Nice to see you this morning.
Good morning.
Now, we should be clear that this incident that you saw happened in 1989. Why did it take so long for you to talk about it?
There was no formal policy at my airline or any airline I've ever worked for that said not to talk about it, but it was kind of unwritten. We were young, we were new in our careers, and the way people tended to be ridiculed about all this, you just kind of kept quiet.
So this came out during a Daily News interview recently when you were asked about it.
That's correct.
Had you ever seen a UFO? And you responded that you had, and you went into detail about. So what happened in 1989 on that day?
Unbelievable. We were flying from Kansas City to Waterloo, Iowa. I was just a first officer in a commuter airline turboprop. And crystal clear skies in Kansas City, crystal clear skies forecast in Waterloo. Supposed to be good weather en route. It's only a couple 250 miles away. We reached our cruise altitude of 15,000 feet, and all of a sudden we just noticed, you know, we're busy in the climb out. Those little, smaller airplanes didn't have autopilots. Leveled out, and a lot of thin, wispy clouds all around us. I noticed off to my right, and I was sitting in the right seat, was a white disc, just kind of thin, visible, barely visible behind the clouds, or dimly visible behind the clouds. And it was a little odd, but you know, we were used to seeing a lot of things in the sky, so when you see something strange, you start looking around trying to figure out what it is. And the first thing you think about is the moon, because it looked like it could have been the moon dimly visible, but the moon was out over here and it was a crescent, it wasn't a full moon. So it couldn't have been a reflection of the moon.
So this large disk, you described it as being pretty large.
Oh, yeah.
Massive. And then after a while, it was following you.
Or we were following it. It was pacing us.
It was pacing you. Then something unbelievable happened to its shape and its color. It turned into a giant orange ball glowing in the sky?
Yeah, after we'd been looking down for searchlights and stuff from the ground, maybe something shining up on the cloud, couldn't find anything. After about 40 minutes, we started our descent into Waterloo, and as we started our descent and looked up, here's this giant red ball just above the clouds.
Unbelievable.
Oh, it was.
And there were people, of course, who witnessed this on your plane as well, not just you.
No, the captain that was on the plane did. I don't know about any of the passengers.
Like air traffic control, I've talked to a lot of pilots here off the air in commercial breaks, and I've asked them this question. We've talked about it, and they've all admitted that they've seen UFOs, but they kind of keep quiet about it. Why is it that they keep quiet about it? Is it fear of losing their job?
I don't know. It's you don't want to be brandished as being crazy. That was one of our concerns before we actually reported it to air traffic control. We discussed it amongst each other. Is this something that's going to jeopardize our career? The government discounts every single report that ever seems to come out. The news media tends to, or at least in the past, has tended to ridicule every UFO report. So, you know, that was all going on really big back in the 1980s.
Since you came forward, what have you heard from people? What have you heard from other pilots who have said thank you for speaking about this?
A little bit. I've got a few friends who called me and said, wow, maybe this is going to finally get the stuff out. I've seen stuff, and it's about time that somebody came forward and you're actually getting some press, and maybe people will start believing this a little bit more.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining us. Andy Danziger is the pilot who flew Barack Obama on his 2008 campaign, witnessed that UFO in 1989. And Ronald Reagan admits to have seen UFOs while he was flying in the airplane, a couple of times actually.
Welcome back. An unidentified object seen over the sky above the Rosedale area.
Reporter Tom Murphy has more on how one viewer brought it to our attention. Tom?
Here at Eyewitness News, we investigate stories others don't. It's what we do. But for this next story, we had to look way up in the sky to see if there was a story or not.
There it is again, it's moving.
I'm not saying it's aliens, but I just want to know.
Joseph Guzman knows how that sounds.
This is hard to believe.
But every night, Guzman looks into the sky and sees something he can't explain.
I can't believe nobody else has seen this. You could drive down Rosedale, anywhere in Bakersfield, just look up at 7:30, 7:45 towards Rosedale, and you'll see it.
He met us at a local auto shop. They've seen the light there too, and they have a friend to prove it.
But it's always glowing, and from our view, it just looks like a light.
So Guzman started shooting video of the unidentified object.
And I felt the same way you probably feel. Come on, it's a star.
So he brought the DVDs to us.
It moves and it glows. It's got a green glow, an orange. It's got 2 black dots. The top of it is cut off.
He's heard every logical idea.
It's Venus. You're seeing things. Oh, that's just a star. It's the North Star. Is it a balloon? It ain't a balloon, okay?
And he's heard his fair share of criticism.
I need to get glasses. I'm seeing things. How did I make that video?
He's even asked himself.
Am I seeing things or do I have it? Do I have something?
With no other explanation, he wonders, has Bakersfield become Area 661?
What it is, if it's aliens, hey, great, come on down, let's have a coffee or something. But if it ain't, why is the government watching us?
For now, Guzman watches the sky as he watches his back.
And after this video airs on 29 News and you guys don't see me for a while, maybe they came down and got me, man. I don't know. I would like to visit them.
Erica, now the shot today, video that's got all of Texas talking, probably the whole country, from iReporter Saber Bowman, who shot this on a cell phone near Stephenville, Texas.
Wow. Close encounter for the third kind.
They don't exactly sound convinced there. They seem to be kind of knocking it.
They seem to be a little
Close
bit.
encounter for the third kind.
It actually sounds a little bit like the
Are they drunk?
Australian kid who threw the party earlier.
If only we could see whether or not he was wearing glasses, we would know.
Exactly. It's a UFO, according to witnesses, and the witnesses include local police and other public figures, the kind of people one would say are level-headed. It's described as a mile long. Some people said the object was a mile long and looked like a gigantic light show. Some folks say it appeared to be chased by fighter planes.
Most of the time, the small town of Stephenville, Texas, doesn't attract too much attention.
But people there think that they've suddenly got a lot of attention from visitors who come from very, very far away. Stephenville, Texas isn't too big, just about 17,000 folks out on the prairie 70 miles southwest of Fort Worth. Until the past few days, milk was what made it famous. All that changed when several dozen residents looked up and saw a UFO more than once.
It kind of is the talk of the town right now.
Being the front page story and all, Angela has been pretty busy interviewing locals who swear, big as it wasn't from Texas.
It was very intense, bright lights. I keep hearing that over and over and over, and they spanned a wide area.
It was so fast when it took off, and it made not a sound.
Rick Sorrells led a camera crew through the woods to where he saw it. It was up there, above the trees.
And I did just like this, and I could see it. And if you look at the trees, it's right here. I mean, it's 300 foot up, right here.
A pilot and a constable back up Ricky's story of what he saw out there in the woods. The U.S. Air Force says it was just an illusion. But maybe the visitors read what the town posted on its website. If you're looking for a small town community, you found one of the best.
Well, some residents are saying today that they saw U.S. fighter jets chasing that UFO.
That's right, but on the other hand, the military said it had no planes anywhere near Stephenville at the time and that it was most likely just a large airliner, not a UFO.
To the field of UFOs, it's not credible, but there is a lot of evidence out there. I mean, I just met with an FAA official that he had cockpit recordings and radar confirmation, visual confirmation, all, synced with the radar of these things, and I consider that evidence.
Ken, if they're hiding it, why do you think the government is hiding it?
Well, I think we've had some of the reactions from the public that show that they are concerned about what this means, whether they are safe and whatnot. But I do think, though, that the fact that we have had so many witnesses come forward across every spectrum of peoples, that it does show that folks are less afraid to come forward. We've had ranch owners, business owners, highly respected people in the community that have come forward and said, we have seen these things in the past in this area, and we were afraid to come forward. And I think with responsible journalism like you have done, in no small part, people are less afraid to come forward, but fear, I guess, is the #1 reason why this has been held back from the public.
We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll ask, why not pilots? We're responsible people. Why don't we hear from them? Don't go away.
They were dancing around and they were flickering, but they weren't just doing this. They were like just moving, you know.
Like a light show?
Like, well, yeah, similar to a light show.
I'd say it was a half a mile wide and about a mile long. It's humongous, whatever it was.
3 very mysterious shiny lights over Breckenridge have police and residents puzzled. Just before noon today, law enforcement agencies started getting reports of UFOs. 9 News Mountain Newsroom reporter Matt Renew is joining us from Breckenridge. And Matt, many people saw these objects today, including yourself.
You bet, Mark. It has been the talk of the town around Breckenridge all day. Even if now here at 5 o'clock, I'm about the only person willing to get in front of a camera and talk about the UFOs that were flying overhead. There was 3 white dots, I'll show you, that were flying over a Breckenridge behind me late this morning. Looked as if they were hovering right over Baldy Mountain behind me. And while no one from the Breckenridge Police Department or Sheriff's Departments wanted to talk about the objects on camera, several people at those organizations saw them, and others around town reported the strange things flying over the skies of Breckenridge, sending police out to investigate these shiny, white, tiny dots in the sky. Some people off camera said they saw them form triangles and a line. On our camera, it seemed as if they didn't move at all. In fact, it took some help for most people to even see them.
Very top of the trees, and then just go to the left in the blue sky. There's all those kind of wispy clouds. Yeah. There's a white dot right in near the edge of those wispy clouds.
Just to the left of the second pine tree, there's a white dot. The FAA didn't have a comment on what these dots could be. NORAD had said they're not tracking any abnormalities at this time. But yesterday, a TV station in Utah reported very similar white dots appearing in the sky over Utah. The objects were visible for about 3 hours. They showed up best when the sun was reflecting off of them. Mark, we also called the Strategic Command as well, U.S. Strategic Command. They said they aren't tracking anything, but they typically track those objects that come in from outer space and then enter orbit. They believe whatever these were probably below their range of tracking.
And not drones, you don't think, Matt?
I don't think they were drones, and the folks that I talked to said they didn't look like weather balloons because at times they would just sit there for 5 or 6 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes without moving an inch on our view screen in the camera, and then you would see a flash of light and they would take off across the edge of the mountain ridge behind me. So it didn't appear to be drones, it didn't appear to be weather balloons, truly unidentified flying objects in the skies over Breckenridge today.
Tonight we have never before seen videotape of UFOs over Colorado. 3 tapes shot by different people at different times in different places, but all look similar.
Do they show something mysterious or something mundane? Fox 31's Kim Posey asks that you decide for yourself.
What the hell is that?
Whatever this is, it's enough to get Don Baumgartner's attention.
Oh, get closer. Come and get me.
The 33-year-old shot this video in September outside his home in Deer Trail, Colorado, east of Denver. He says he woke up because his dogs were acting strangely, and there was a blue light coming through the window.
There it is again.
Baumgartner gave the video to investigators at the Colorado Mutual UFO Network.
It was clearly not an aircraft, a conventional aircraft of any kind.
Ethan Rich says he's intrigued. The pulsing ball of light seems to have a flattened top and bottom and an object inside.
It does display virtually every color of the spectrum as it's strobing.
Driving home from a friend's house after an evening out about 11:30, and on my way home on the county roads, I thought somebody was following directly behind me, like too closely. So I pulled over to let them pass me. No one came. I could smell static electricity, but there was no lightning. So then I get home and I go in and I grab the camera and I just start recording. And I see 15 UFOs like hovering above the land. And then I see what I believe to be a demon appear before me. My heart was racing, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. I didn't even realize what I got on camera until the next day when I reviewed the tape. There's a lot of sightings, and there's a lot of stories about UFO activity out here. So now I'm going to fast forward to the first part, which I actually took the footage of the alien first. So like here's me during the day, so I don't know if you want to, because I'm going to have you make copies of this. But as you can show, like during the day, that's where they were, is like right here above the land. Okay, so I'm walking around trying to take video of the half-shell UFOs. Okay, that's where they were, is like right here above the land. So the lady at MUFON is the one who told me these are light rods. I call them light worms.
Huge into that blue aura, and it just flew through the sky.
He says he stood there in awe, unclear of what it was.
Behind it, you could see a bunch of blue, just blue cloud. It looked.
If you noticed strange lights in the sky over the weekend, you aren't alone. KCTV5's Alan Shope went to Lee's Summit to get to the bottom of more than a dozen UFO sightings.
I mean, it's actually pretty large. It looked like it was about a mile away.
It was not something Felix Figueroa and his friends expected to see last weekend.
Make sure everyone immediately, while it's still fresh in their mind, draws a picture of what they saw. And so we all took out a piece of paper and we all do the same thing.
Yeah, a strange metal-looking ship hovering over Lee's Summit. Felix says he never really believed in UFOs till now.
We were all stunned. I mean, we were all just in awe. I mean, I don't even know how I didn't run off the road.
Felix is not alone. Margie Kay with the Missouri Mutual UFO Network says it was a busy weekend in Kansas City. 17 different people with sightings contacted her office this weekend alone.
This last weekend was really, really big. Saturday late night to Sunday morning during a 6.5-hour period. We had so far to date 17 witnesses call in about UFOs that they've seen.
No one knows if UFOs actually exist or why they'd be hanging out in the Kansas City area. One thing is for sure, for the folks who witnessed the strange events this last weekend, they wish they'd have taken pictures. Richard Vick wished he'd have taken pictures of a strange sight that he saw in the sky Saturday off 435 and 63rd Street in Missouri.
I was looking out my window towards the east. Under the tree line, there was an orange orb. And it was traveling, I'd guess, 40, 50 miles an hour. And it hit the tree line, and then it just started to move up and just explode into like 5 balls.
As for Felix, he has a message for those who may not believe.
Definitely have second thoughts, and I would say that it's a possibility, especially after what I saw.
In Lee's Summit, Alan Shope, KCTV5 News.
Strange indeed. Well, we called Whiteman Air Force Base. A spokesperson says they didn't have anything in the skies Saturday night, and they are not aware of any pending UFO investigations.
Never before seen footage of UFO sightings this year are being shown at a conference in Pontefract. Well, these pictures were shot over the summer by a lifeguard in Turkey. Extraterrestrial experts from across the world and people who claim to have been abducted by aliens will all be at the conference. Well, let's take you there live now and speak to Sky's Mike McCarthy. Mike.
Yes, as you say, a range of guests at the UFO conference here in Pontefract, including a former RAF wing commander and, as you say, a woman who says she was abducted by aliens. But the highlight, I think, of the conference is the footage that you've referred to. First time that it's been seen in the UK. It's being presented by Haktan Arkdugan, if I've got your name right there, Haktan. Tell me about this footage and why you think it's important.
Well, this extraordinary incident took place in Kumburgaz in Istanbul. It's a compound in Kumburgaz, and it was witnessed by many people who live in the compound, and it was filmed by the security guard for almost 3 hours within the period of time, like 2.5 to 3 months period of time. We have like 18 or 17 footages. And the footages are so interesting and so amazing because we don't just see the lights in the sky, we see in the close-up the outline of the object. Very clearly, the structure of the object is so clear, and also in June 12 dated footage, the UFO puts a show. Exactly puts a show, and it turns its lights back and forth again from one side to another. This is amazing footage, and it's been analyzed. The whole footage has been analyzed from our scientific board for 2.5 weeks. All this footage for 2.5 hours long footage for 2.5 weeks. We went frame by frame, we went pixel by pixel, and this is 100% genuine footage.
But don't you think, I mean, you're the founder of a UFO research centre in Turkey. Isn't this kind of thing quite easily done with cameras and graphics and that kind of thing nowadays. I mean, you know, do you not open yourself to the accusation that, it's another hoax?
Of course, it's so normal, but also in our scientific team we have some special effect experts too. They analyze the footage, and we are ready to provide this footage, the original footage, to any institution, even in UK, in the scientific institution. They can go through their own analysis, and they're going to come up with the same conclusion. After we done all this research and analyzing this footage for 2.5 weeks, that's why we're coming forward to the world, first time in UK. And that this is 100% real footage.
Just briefly, tell us about these beings that we're seeing in some of these pictures. You say for the first time, really, very clearly.
Yeah, in UFO history, not only this time, not only UFOs are being filmed, also in June 8th, I think, segment of the footage, we see two heads, two silhouettes of entities' heads is clearly, you can tell there's two heads in the craft. Not only just craft is being filmed, but also the entities is being filmed. First time ever in the UFO history. This is also what makes this footage so important worldwide.
Aktan Duggan, thank you very much for joining us. Well, there may be a lot of skeptics around, but there are certainly also a lot of believers. The conference here for the weekend has been fully subscribed and is really packed out.
Mike McCarthy in Pontefract for that UFO conference. Thank you.
Paul Hellyer served as the Canadian Minister of Defence in the 1960s, shaping the country's armed forces for years to come. It was only in his retirement that he says he made a life-changing discovery. He became the first cabinet-level politician from a G8 country to publicly state that there is extraterrestrial life present on Earth. Is this an elaborate fantasy? Are aliens science fiction? Or is there something to claims of their existence?
Extraterrestrial life. For ages, humanity has wondered, is there anything else in the cold darkness of space? Skeptics say there is no proof, but there have always been those who dared to dream. And some even claim to have seen things with their own eyes. Do aliens exist? Are they already here? Do they pose a threat or a chance for salvation?
Honorable Paul Hellyer, former Minister of Defence of Canada, and he believes that life forms from space exist and are present on Earth. It's great to have you with us on our show. Why do you say that UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying over our heads?
Well, because I know that they are. They've been, as a matter of fact, they've been visiting our planet for thousands of years. And one of the cases that would interest you most, if you give me 2 or 3 minutes to answer, is during the Cold War, 1961, there were about 50 UFOs in formation flying south from Russia to across Europe. And the Supreme Allied Commander was very concerned and about ready to press the panic button when they turned around and went back over the North Pole. So they decided to do an investigation, and they investigated for 3 years, and they decided that with absolute certainty that 4 different species at least, had been visiting this planet for thousands of years. So that's, we have a long history of UFOs, and of course there's been a lot more activity in the last few decades since we invented the atomic bomb, and they're very concerned about that and the fact that we might use it again. And because the whole cosmos is a unity, and it affects not just us, but other people in the cosmos, they're very much afraid that we might be stupid enough to start using atomic weapons again, and this would be very bad for us and for them as well.
So no serious scientist has ever publicly confirmed evidence of an encounter with extraterrestrials. Why would scientists not confirm the facts if they exist?
I'm afraid they must go out of their way not to find out. Because if they did, you know, even 10% of the amount of research I've done in the last 8 years, they would be as convinced as I am. I mean, they could do it even faster. Might take them a little longer when they didn't have a military background. But there are so many wonderful books that tell these stories, and they've been authenticated. The sightings have been authenticated by more than one witness, and also by radar. And they have landed in various places around the world, including Russia. There's a famous case there. I can't remember the name of the place, but it was widely reported at the time. A man wrote a book about it, and then the French bought the book rights so that it wouldn't be circulated around. There's just so much evidence. If anybody will take the time off to do a little bit of research and study. But people just are, you know, some people are interested and will take the time, and the others just say, oh, you know, it's just fantasy. Mm-hmm. But since I've been public on this subject, I get, probably 3 or 4 emails a week from all over the world from people who have actually witnessed sightings. And some of them who have actually been on the ships, and some of them who have actually been transported to another planet. And so this information is not, you know, it is top secret in a way that the governments aren't talking about it. But if you listen to the whistleblowers and the people who have worked in the industry and who know what is going on, there is just a lot of information out there, and it doesn't take very long to get your hands on it.
Have you ever had your own encounter with aliens?
Not an encounter with aliens, no. I have seen a UFO about 120 miles north of Toronto over Lake Muskoka, where I have a cottage. And 2 years ago, last Canadian Thanksgiving, which is October, my wife decided she wanted to go out and look at the stars. So I'm not much of a night man, but I put on my cap and went out with her. And she looked into the eastern sky and said, there's a star. And I turned around the other way and I said, oh, there's a much brighter one over here. And she looked, and it was. And we watched it until our necks almost broke for about 20 minutes. And it was definitely a UFO, because it could change position in the sky by 3 or 4 degrees in 3 or 4 seconds. And I checked out, there were no satellites that could do that. The space station wasn't going by, and it isn't able to move that fast anyway. And there was no other explanation except that it was the real thing. And 2 days later, I went down on the dock, got a comfortable chair, and watched it came back almost to the same spot and entertained me for as long as I could take it. And then I went back to the cottage. But it was very interesting, because it would drop down in the sky, and then it would roar back up, and then it would shift across a few degrees and do a circle and come back at a speed, but, you know, just astronomical speeds. As you know, they travel very, very fast.
So does it just look like a falling star that falls really quickly and then rises again? What does it look like?
Well, it just looked like a star.
Dulce is a quiet, unassuming town nestled in northern New Mexico. Many of its residents are members of the Jicarilla Apache tribe. They swear.
I tell stories, but my nose isn't growing.
They are not making this up.
They threw down a ladder from that spaceship, and then 2 small people started climbing down.
Jerry Julian says she had her first extraterrestrial encounter right here on her Dulce ranch about 40 years ago.
It was huge. I just saw the bottom of it. You know, it was like flat like this.
Many of her neighbors claim similar strange sightings.
Fat in the middle and kind of like rounded on the sides. You're speechless, you know? You just don't know what to think, you know? It's just like, it's like nothing you've ever encountered before.
Why are stories of the extraordinary ordinary here?
I do not know. I do not know. Probably kind of that big mountain we have right there, you know.
Rumor has it there is a secret base hidden underneath the Archuleta Mesa here. The mountain overlooks Dulce. Some people in town say the base is run by aliens working with our federal government to conduct mind control and genetic experiments.
Do you believe that?
Yeah. Well, a whole bunch of people seen it, you know.
Like the ground opened up, steam coming out of it.
They also claim they've seen some creatures cooked up in those experiments, like Bigfoot and something half-human.
Down this way, the waist down, it's a goat. It has a tail. But up here, it's a man.
People tell me Dulce wasn't always a center for supernatural activity, but then sometime in the 70s, things changed. That's when cows started turning up mutilated.
They just cut out in between the lakes right here, we've seen one.
I know it's not a predator, it's doing it, someone's doing it.
Local police never definitively said who's to blame. Locals say it has to be something out of this world. And since then,
I was taking a random picture, zoomed it in, and there was a UFO right there.
they say they know it sounds crazy.
They're just going to ask me, well, how much did you drink or what did you drink?
I'll submit to a lie detector test or anything, you know.
But say it's the truth. Question is, do you believe?
Anything possible these days now.
In Dulce, Megan Cruz, KOAT Action 7 News.